I'm Amy Cashwell, Superintendent of Henrico County Schools, and I do want to acknowledge two school board members who are here with us this evening. Mrs. Mickey Ogburn, representative of the Three Chap District, is with us, and also Mrs. Beverly Cock, representative of the Brooklyn District, is with us. So we're pleased that they could join us this evening along with some central staff as well. But on behalf of the school division, I am here to say thank you to all of you who have dedicated your evening to be a part of this redistricting process. As you know, this is a committee-driven effort, and we still have a long way to go. The committee, made up of volunteer parents, teachers, and interested citizens, just like you, has been working many long nights since September, analyzing data and studying the community comments so far. Matthew Cropper will take the stage in just a moment, and what he'll tell you is that the maps on display later this evening represent a first draft of options that will help our public school system achieve the goals that were set forth for this process. Right now, your input is crucial. Feedback the committee receives tonight, as well as next week, will lead to more discussion, analysis, and changes to these options, and no final decisions are expected until May of next year. Redistricting is never easy. I have heard and felt your concerns. I can think of nothing else worth fighting for more than what's best for our children. And that's why I appreciate that so many of you are here this evening. You'll learn more about the process. You'll get a chance to hear why, and you'll get a chance not only to share your concerns, but your ideas as well. And that's how the process is supposed to work, and I hope you'll consider this to be time well spent. In closing, I want to share my gratitude with the Redistricting Committee, whose members have spent too many nights away from their families trying to do what's best for all the students of Henrico County. And I want to express my sincere thanks once again that all of you are here tonight as well. So with that, I will turn it over to Matthew Cropper of Cropper GIS. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Dr. Cashwell, and thank you all for coming tonight. It's very important that you guys are here and that you're being a part of this process. We really appreciate your involvement and your participation and your input and your interest in this work. As Dr. Cashwell said, we are just unveiling some preliminary options. These are drafts that are certainly subject to change as the committee continues their work. But we felt like that this phase we were ready to share some maps with you. So the purpose of tonight is for you to learn how the school redistricting process has been working. We do have two draft options, options A and B, that we want to share with you and get some feedback from you on. We have finally a survey that's online right now and it's live. We'll be having conversations with you after this presentation. We're going to invite everybody to go to the gym, and there's a series of maps, multiple copies of maps out there, and you'll see committee members and myself and staff will be around those maps to talk with you about the maps. But the most important thing with tonight is the survey. So we'd like to make sure that although the discussion is important, we do want you to put your input on the survey so that the entire group and all of the small discussions that are being had at tonight's meeting can be benefited by everybody, the whole committee and also the members of the public. A little bit about who we are. We are Cropper GIS Consulting. We're based out of Ohio, but we do this kind of work with school districts and school divisions all over the country. Our specialty is school redistricting, and we have been doing this for about 20 years and have a lot of experience in working with districts. We've worked with districts of all sizes. We're also working in Richmond Public Schools now, and I was at a meeting in Frederick County, Virginia last night, and so we're doing a lot of things in Virginia as well as other school districts across the United States. So we bring the perspective of what has and what hasn't worked with communities and committees, and also so that experience is a big part. And also we bring the technology, so we are taking a lot of complex statistics and data and putting things into some maps and tables for everybody to be able to understand the impact on moving a line one way or the other. Like I said, I'm Matthew Cropper. I have about 20 years experience in doing this, and I'm honored to be working with you guys and this committee as we continue our work. So we do have some objectives that we have to follow, some things that we are looking at to try to identify whether making a change is necessary or not. And these are to efficiently use all available space and to plan for future growth. So being mindful of the students that are currently in neighborhoods and communities now, but also be mindful of areas that are growing, that new subdivisions are coming online. And not only that, but looking at subdivisions and developments that are aging and maybe stable, maybe even potentially declining in population. So looking at all those factors and trying to make sure that schools are equitably used. Determine attendance boundaries for the expanded Holiday Elementary School. So Holiday is pretty much doubling in size, and so that school, that expansion at that school is going to help resolve the extensive overcrowding at the school, but it's also going to extend beyond that boundary to help other schools adjacent to there or near that school to help provide some relief to their capacity. For the high schools, we have to account for increasing building capacity at Highland Springs and Tucker. Both those schools are being replaced with brand new buildings, and they are being expanded. You'll see that Highland Springs is being expanded a little bit more capacity than what you see at Tucker, but both of them are getting state-of-the-art new buildings as part of this process, and so the committee is tasked to look at that. You'll notice that both are being planned for the 2021-22 school year, so that has been the committee's focus up to this point, and focusing on building a plan for 2021-22. The final thing that we're looking at is reducing concentrations of poverty while balancing a neighborhood school concept. So try to see if we can't improve the diversity of schools as it relates to socioeconomics, but don't deviate too far away from the neighborhood concept and not drawing students too far away from where they live. We wanted to note one thing because I know that a lot of you have probably seen some of the most recent press about some changes or the most recent capital improvement plan that the county has put forward. The capital improvement plan does identify 2 elementary schools and a middle school expansion. For the purpose of this group or for the committee, they have not incorporated any of this into their plan, but they will be starting. The one new elementary school is opening in 2022. The other one is going to be located on the west end, and there's not a determined date for that. So that's not going to be in this committee's focus. The committee wasn't aware of this. None of this was on their radar when they last met. So the maps that you see out there don't incorporate any new school or expanded middle schools on the maps. But you will see when you look at the maps out in the gym that there is a red circle on the location where the new elementary school is going to be located. It's north of Greenwood Elementary School, and you can see it on the maps. The red dot represents the new school. And the committee will be looking at that. It's anticipated that this new school is really going to help accommodate some of the growth potential in that area. There's a large-scale development that's being planned in that area, and there's a lot of students expected from there, as well as other schools along the corridor in that region. So that new school is going to help absorb some of that growth, as well as some of the schools in the immediate adjacency to it. So there is going to be a little bit of change to our objectives for the committee in looking at an additional elementary school and this middle school expansion, but that second elementary school is not going to be part of their work and part of their recommendation. So we do have some criteria to follow, and these are basically the rules to follow as the committee continues to look at moving boundary lines one way or the other, which boundary best adheres to these criteria as a whole. I think it's going to be, it's evident as the committee continues their work that they cannot create a plan that perfectly adheres to all these criteria. There's going to be certain plans or certain adjustments that adhere better to some criteria and others that don't adhere as best to the criteria as possible. But no plan is going to be perfect when this is all said and done. There will be advantages and limitations with any plan when things are finalized, but the best plan will be one that best adheres to these criteria. And we orient the committee on these at every meeting, and that's why I want to talk with you about them as well. So they are to use major roads and natural boundaries when feasible to define attendance zones. All reasonable efforts should be made to ensure contiguous geographic zones. So don't draw a satellite zone or a separate zone from one large zone and send that an area outside of an area to another school. That's something that's not best practice, and that's what that criteria is talking about. Also, this talks about minimizing the division of clearly identifiable community components. So that really means don't draw the line down residential streets if at all possible. And so try and make sure that if a community has to move, that the community moves together and not drawing the line down a residential neighborhood or a street, if at all possible. So that's something that they have looked at. They have made modifications. Prior options did do some of that, and they were looking at, they've made adjustments to it, but still knowing that these are draft, and if you do identify something like that, you can bring it to our attention or certainly put it in the survey. It's things that we'll continue to study. All legal and judicial guidelines, maintenance of a unitary school system, so that's something we are certainly abiding by the law. Efforts will be made to ensure an efficient system of school bus transportation, so we're looking at the distance of communities to schools, and the current distance to schools and where they're being zoned to in any particular option. Efforts will be made to establish walking schools and reasonable walking zones where feasible. And so we do have walk zones available on our interactive map. It's a layer that you can turn on and see what the walk zone is for the buildings. And we're being mindful of what areas can walk to school. And those are school areas that are not, that don't get transportation provided to them. They are expected to walk to school. Kendra, could you switch for me? Oh, it'll pop up. Good. There we go. Thank you. So provision should be made to ensure the continuity of a child's K-12 progress. So this is often referred to as grandfathering. The school division hadn't made a determination on grandfathering yet, but they have finalized some of their decisions on this. And this is to, when the new boundaries take effect, the school division will allow grades 5th, 8th, and 11th and 12th to the opportunity to continue to their existing school. But the one caveat is that they have to provide their own transportation. So either the parent or guardian has to make sure that the student has adequate transportation. So that rising grade in the elementary and the middle school, when the boundaries take effect, is eligible to stay at their school, provided they have to get their own transportation there. And for high schools, it's 11th and 12th grade. Normally we'll see the rising 12th graders and not the 11th and 12th grade in most places. So this is certainly a good gesture for the school division to help further reduce the impact on students who may be coming to the final ends of their tenure at whatever grade level that they're at. And then the last one is rezoning a plan over a span of several years that would be preferable to minimize the need for additional line changes. So we've got this new elementary school, 2022. The plan has been 2021 leading up to now. And so it's very possible that some changes could happen in 2022 and others may happen in 2021. And so they will phase in of any plan, but the committee will be focused on a plan that incorporates the new school for 2022. But the main part of this is to make sure that as you phase in, that you don't move an area, and then the next year you have to move an area to another school. So if you move students, either move them in 2021 or 2022, and we will certainly make sure that that's done efficiently. This is our timeline. You can see where we are. We started up here with the public info session in September. The committee has met a couple times in September and October. Here we are in November to share some draft options with you. And then the committee will be regrouping in December and then working in January, also in February, through another series of meetings before we come back to you in March with another set of maps. And so we will be doing the same format, and at that point in March we'll be a little closer to finalizing the recommendation, but still be draft and as they continue their work. And then once the March public information session is complete, then they will meet one more time to finalize their recommendations, which will be presented to the board in April, and then May is when the board is expected to vote on a plan of next May of 2020. So there's still a lot of time to be done. The committee has covered a lot of ground in their first 3 meetings, and we have a lot more work ahead of us. Talking about the committee, we formulated 2 committees to help work through this process. We have a 46-member elementary group and a 21-person secondary group, which covers middle and high schools. They were selected, the committee members all applied, as well as hundreds of other people, and we as consultants selected the committee. We wanted to make sure that the committee had good geographic distribution, that the committee members live in each of the zones that are in the school division, so that these committee members can give us perspectives of what things are like in the areas that they live. What's traffic like at 5 o'clock? Where do they see students walking across the street? Things like that. Those elements of input are really important that the committee brings to the table that we may not know as outside consultants. And so I'm really proud of this committee. I think that they have been objective in thinking about the big picture, where we constantly encourage them to take off their parent hat when they get to the committee meetings and put on their committee member hat and focus on developing a plan that's best for all children in this district, even if it may impact the community that they live in. But the committee is just one method for public engagement. We've got the committee as a subset of the public, but the public is welcome to come to all these committee meetings, and we've had public members at the committee meetings to observe. And then we also have a series of these public information sessions to make sure that the public is engaged and that they can participate. So this committee has worked, they're about almost half complete. They've met 3 times since September and spent many hours working over maps. They have reviewed 8 different variations of the maps so far, and since the process started, they started with 2 draft options that we brought to them to look at and to consider, and they took those maps. They also did a series of sketch maps where they were given black and white maps to sketch up options that they felt were good for the community. And we took all of that information, and all that has been incorporated into changes, and as the maps evolve, all of that input has been incorporated into different maps. They've looked at a lot of statistics and data because it's really important that there's a lot of emotion involved in redistricting, and as you know, and so what the committee has to do is really set aside the emotional side of this process and focus on making data-driven decisions that best support and meet the needs for all children in this county. And so you'll see a set of statistics that accompany the maps out there that the committee has been looking at, that you could see how the numbers look and see the before and after, and how the options size up, and different elements that support the criteria. Again, these maps are draft and nothing is set in stone, so anything that you see out there, consider it written in pencil, and it could be modified and can be changed as the committee continues their work. You guys, as public, have been very helpful so far. We have received a lot of input through you from the feedback form that we have online. There's also been some emails that have been submitted, but the feedback is what we encourage the public to submit their input up until this point on the feedback form. We are tracking your concerns and seeing where people from the public, the different communities are concerned, and what their concerns are, so that we can be mindful and knowledgeable about what communities want and what they are not or are happy about with the maps. All these materials that we share with the committee are posted online, so if you go to the school district's webpage for redistricting, you can go to any meeting and pull up all the materials that have been shared with the committee, and all the materials that they have in a big binder that they've been collecting can all be downloaded and printed by any member of the public. There's also an interactive map available so that you can look at options and look at some of the census tracts and the small building blocks for redistricting that we've been working with. At their October meetings, both committees narrowed down to 2 options to present to you tonight. They felt like these 2 options were the ones that best adhered to the objectives and the criteria at this point, but they are aware that these maps are still in need of modification and continued review. The elementary committee chose the prior options 5 and 6, but they had changes made that are incorporated in the maps that you see out there. And the middle school, high school group chose prior options 3 and 5. And these are now named options A and B that you see out in the gym. You'll see that we did a little exercise with the committee, what we call dot democracy, or sticker exercise for for an easier term. And we told the committee to put 2 stickers on 2 options, a sticker on 2 options that they feel best meets the objectives and criteria. They couldn't put 2 stickers on 1 option, but they put their 2 stickers, and this is how the stickers fell. The elementary group you'll see is on the left, and then the middle high group is on the right. And this didn't help define which options were going to go, but it just helped build consensus and see where the rest of the group felt. We discussed the sticker exercise, and in the end, these are the options that the committee felt was best to share with you tonight in their draft form. So how can you participate? Like I said, all this information is available online for you to download. That webpage has a feedback form that is just a general form for just general comments that you can provide. We do have a survey that's out now that's catered for options A and B that asks you specifically about options A and B for all 3 levels. And that's what we really want you to fill out so that we can collect that information and get your input. We'll summarize that and report that back to the committee and also share that with the public. So we have 2 information sessions scheduled for this phase tonight, and there's another one at Godwin High School on November 13th. It's going to be the same format in both presentations, and both formats are going to be the same. Just to try to reach out to all members of the public so that they can have an opportunity to give us input. But the online survey is an important component. Everybody should have picked up a 1-pager when you walked in the door, and that 1-pager has a QR code. You could always look at that. Point your phone to that. If you point your camera to that, it'll take you directly to the survey. Or you can go to the redistricting page and fill out the survey. You can use it from your phone or anything like that, or any device or computer works with that survey. So tonight is a gallery walk. Soon we're gonna adjourn and let you guys go out to the maps. The format of this meeting is not to have an open mic type format where people come up to the microphone and speak. The most important part of this is it's data collection. You're collecting data from us and you're listening to us, and we're also collecting data from you. The best way for us to collect information from you is to have it structured into a survey so that anybody, if they don't feel comfortable standing up at a microphone, anybody can participate by filling out this survey. And so that's the best way that we've found over the past 15, 20 years in doing this to collect as much information and to make sure that everybody is enabled to provide input to us. And so you'll see that committee members and staff and consultants will be around the maps. You'll notice a yellow lanyard. The yellow lanyards are all committee members who are on the elementary committee. And then you'll see an orange lanyard, and the orange lanyard represents committee members who are on the secondary committee, the middle school, high school group. They'll be standing around the maps and having conversations with you. I would just ask that they're a little nervous because they know people are angry and emotional, but just be respectful, and they definitely want to hear and listen to you as well as we do, and we're really looking forward to having these conversations with you around these maps. When you look at the maps, you'll see the background color represents the options. So you'll see there's a station that has the current maps, and then the options are posted on these boards. The background color represents the option, and then you'll see a bold black outline on the map that represents the current zone. So you can see kind of how the option spills away from a zone, and that represents the areas that are considered to be moved in that particular option. If you need help interpreting the maps, anybody with a lanyard, any committee member can help interpret the maps and help you identify how you may be impacted. You'll also see something called census tracts. They're little black and white dashed outlines on the map. Those are small building blocks for redistricting. Those have some numbers in there. Those numbers represent the number of students that live in that planning block that goes to their zoned school. So that can kind of help you get an understanding of how many students live inside these small areas and what would the impact be if you moved an area one way or the other. And the committee has been looking at those extensively as they continue to work through options. The online map is croppermap.com/Henrico. You can pull that up on any phone. I'll probably have that open when we go into the foyer or to the gym. It's a really good resource to see. The further you zoom in, the more detail you get. Property lines start to show up, and there's some other layers on there available. You can zoom the subdivision there, and a lot of other tools and resources that you can make use of. The tables and statistics will be there, like I had mentioned. I think that I've covered that pretty well. You'll see the data there to help support how the maps are shaped and rationale for the maps and also some of the statistics. This online survey opens tonight. It's going to extend all the way to midnight, November 24th. And then on that Monday morning, we're going to pull that survey information down and start putting it together in a summary form and be sharing that with the committee. Really, what's most important with the survey is that we're looking for constructive feedback. Anything that you can give us that helps us better adhere to the objectives and criteria is what we need. This survey, when we report this, it's not something where we're going to say, okay, we had 500 people say they like this map or they want to make this move, so therefore we're going to make this adjustment. That's not the way that we do things when it comes to input from the public. Although your input is very important, it's not a measure of how many people want this and that's what's driving it. It's really focused on the objectives and criteria. One person in the public can give us a comment that'll drive a change to the map, where potentially 300 or 400 people can provide a comment where we don't make a change to the map. So not saying that 300 or 400 people providing input isn't important and isn't valid, that's something for us to consider, but just know that that's the nature of the feedback that we're looking for. We're looking for constructive input. In the next steps, the committee is going to review this input from the online surveys and all the information. They will continue to study the maps. At the next meeting, we're going to be providing the statistics and data with current enrollment. So they're going to be looking at current enrollment starting in the next meeting series, and in addition to some other statistics, some information on socioeconomics and economic disadvantagement information. And so they're going to continue their work. They're going to continue working through the maps. They've got 4 meetings scheduled. The next meeting is on December 4th, and then for the elementary group, and the 9th for the middle school, high school group. And the final presentation is April 23rd, like I said, and the board vote is May 28th, 2020. So that's really what we're working towards. And a lot of work to be done, but we wanted to bring some things to you to get some input from you. Any other questions you have, you can always put things on the feedback form, or there's the general survey, or the survey there's an open-ended question that you can ask, which we'll be looking at, and you can find all this information on the school division's redistricting webpage. So that's all I have for the presentation. So now we're going to invite you guys to go to the gym. It's right behind, across the cafeteria area. Thank you guys very much, and we look forward to talking with you around the maps.